So in the meantime, Ken is still doing his reporting and the whole bit. And he's gotten a job now as a reporter for KTTV. And he's in the field working as a reporter. He is as happy as he can be.
Wow.
And he's also doing the soul thing. It's not going to work. Can you edit and cut this out?
Yeah, don't worry about it. Listen, at least we've been saved the blower machines that are riding around my neighborhood. Go ahead.
Whoever it is, they called right back. So that's not a robot call.
Right.
Um,
So he's in his job.
He's in his job. He's happy as he can be. He's still running Soul. I'm handling the business. He's handling the creative and the editorial, and he's handling the staff. And I don't even remember at what stage along, because I was actually up writing in the middle of the night last night, and I was trying to think about it, and I couldn't get anything
Right.
to come. At some point, he became the weekend anchorman at KTTV News. And at that point, it was kind of a conflict for him to be so out there about Soul.
I
So
see.
he had to be more undercover at Soul.
Sure.
And so that required me then to take over more responsibilities. And the person, anchorman, and in the field reporter at KTTV. Now he has less time and he's not supposed to be very visual at
Of course.
Soul, because he's now become a talent, on-air talent.
Yep.
Basically owned
I love that phrase or that word.
by KTTV.
No, yeah, I did modeling for a while and realized that my name was the talent. I had no identity. I was the talent.
And you were owned.
Yeah. Yes. I had no say about anything. Yeah. That was a little side trip there.
I know. So he's doing what he's doing, and I'm learning and growing at the newspaper. And now I'm having to sort of manage the editorial staff. I'm dealing with the printer now. I've got to learn all of that because all those things affected the bottom line. If they were late, it might be overtime charges with the printer.
Right.
We couldn't miss our run because he was full. There's nowhere to move you a day later.
Right.
One time they found a check for $1,000 under a pile of mail on the editorial table in the editorial room, because that's where their heads were.
Wow.
And so, now I'm starting to become the Virgo that I am, and I need things more organized.
Yeah.
And more timely. And so I'm now pushing people constantly, because all I see ever, and quite honestly, is the bottom line. I'm looking at the bottom line constantly, and I'm the one that had to write the checks to meet the payroll and to pay the printer, because if the printer didn't get paid, there was no printing of the next issue. So it was just.
You don't have to apologize for being a responsible manager.
I know, but I took to it way too comfortably. I mean, look, I'd already managed adults as a child.
Yeah. Yes, you did.
Now managing children as a young adult.
Right. Wow.
Was easy. Okay.
Yep.
So, we're publishing, we're doing well. Everything's really going quite well. The money's coming in enough to take care of our bills. And now I'm starting to sell advertising as well.
Wow.
Ken isn't. And I'm dealing with the record companies across the country to sell them. And then it's, I remember one big interruption at one point was that, I don't remember sequence so much, but Ken was working at CBS TV. By now he's moved to CBS, KNXT, and they had a job opening in New York, and they wanted him to go back and interview for that job. And of course, in those days, they said, take along the little woman so she can see what New York is like.
Right.
And maybe look around for where you guys might live there.
Right.
And as we've gotten off the plane and we're in the taxi going into Manhattan from Kennedy Airport, Ken's going, I'm not moving here. And I'm going, yay, yay. So he did his interview. And I said, may I stay a few days
Oh,
and
funny.
see more of New York and maybe call on some of the radio stations and the advertisers.
Right, right.
Again, may I? And his response was, oh, you can't stay here alone. And I said, oh, I'll call my friend Ann Luke in DC and see if she'll come up and stay with me. And that's what I did.
They were different times, weren't they? You had to manage everything.
And get permission.
I know, I know.
It's so hard for me to even envision it now.
I know, I know. I can remember saying to my mother one time, oh, George, my husband at the time, George bought me a dress. She said, he picked out a dress for you? I said, no, I was saying what was appropriate. Yeah.
It's a different time. It's a different time. So make a long story short, I fell in love with New York, and he definitely told him no for the job.
Yeah.
And I made some new friends and met a whole bunch of people in New York, and I just had a splendid time.
Yeah.
I mean, splendid.
Wow.
I'd never seen anything like it, and I loved everything I saw.
Right.
I even loved the dead body I saw in the trunk of a car in Little Italy, feet up out of cement in the trunk. Around the corner from my hotel. I mean, I had seen a lot. I had never seen anything like that or imagined it or heard about it in my life.
Right. Oh my.
Yeah. So, I think at that point might have been the beginning of my self-empowerment.
Yeah, I think so. I do.
In many ways. And because he needed to stay in his small fish pound. And I was like ready to see the world.
Really funny how the dreamers change places for a minute there. Yeah.
So, we were just doing what we did.
Yeah.
And he was doing his thing and I was doing my thing. And we looked like a happy, hardworking couple up to the world. Because I didn't bring our problems into the office. I never shared them with the staff.
Yes.
We went to lots and lots of big events, the Supremes, Diana Ross, Marvin Gaye.
I was going to ask, did you hang out with any of these folks?
A little, not much. I was never, I'm almost embarrassed to say this, but
you were not a hanger-outer?
I'm not a hanger-outer. I wasn't a heavy drinker. And I also felt that too many of the people that were given the great talents of voice and writing and song and music were missing other human points.
Oh.
And they wouldn't make good friends.
Oh.
And there was no need to try to be close to them. I got no thrill out of knowing some celebrity.
Gotcha.
Gotten very close with James Brown.
Wow.
Early on, he was a big supporter of soul.
Mhm.
And we were at every time he was in LA, we were there. And he had a column he ran in soul for a couple of years.
Oh my.
And that way he supported us by advertising, by paying for us to run this column. He would buy ads.
Wow.
It was great. And then one time I got a call from his manager, Mr. Bobbitt, Mr. Charles Bobbitt. And Mr. Bobbitt called and I answered the phone. I said, Mr. Bobbitt, how are you today? And, we chatted. And I said, so what's the nature of this call? He said, Miss Jones, he said, I just want to tell you, don't ever be alone with Mr. Brown. And I heard him. And I said, thank you very much, Bobbitt. Mr. Bobbitt, I will definitely adhere to that.
Wow.
And it was years later before Bobbitt died that I asked him, did he remember that conversation? And he paused and he said, yes, I do. And I said, Mr. Bobbitt, I want to thank you again because you could have lost your job for that. He
That's
said,
right.
Mrs. Jones, I could have lost more than my job.
Mm,
So he had heard something said, which
yeah,
I couldn't get him to disclose. And he went, brain dead and said he didn't remember what it was.
right.
And I don't remember if by then we had printed something that Mr. Brown didn't like in the newspaper or what it was. But somehow or another, it wasn't safe for me to be alone with Mr. Brown.
Wow.
And he had a reputation with women, but I was a married woman with 5 kids, so I didn't think that applied
Right.
to me.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't looking for a relationship or affair
Well,
with him.
predators are predators.
Yeah,
It isn't dependent.
I didn't know that.
Shape. No, none of us knew that then. None of us did. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, and there were a couple more incidents like that I had to learn the hard way, but not too hard, thank God. I'm at some big conference of marketing developers, and a big celebrity. Well, I'm gonna just be honest. Retired baseball player working for Greyhound was introduced to me, and I'm trying to get advertising from him at this luncheon. And he says, "Oh, let's talk some more. I just got to pick something up." We go to his room, and immediately it's hands on. I'm fighting for my life. Fortunately, I have a quick and a very vicious tongue. And I asked him, if I explained to him it would be over my dead body and was ruining his entire life and career over some blank, be worth it. And he called me a bitch and told me to get out.
Wow.
And I knew then, you never go near anybody's hotel room or
Correct.
lessons learned. And I had bruises on my shoulder, which I then had to hide from Ken, because had he seen them, I would not be allowed back out on the road. Okay. So those kind of
I call those the good old days. Who is that? Who? I want to know.
And I won't go into today, but that today, I wish they had the laws and the restrictions and the things they have, but predators are still going to be predators. I don't care what anybody says.
Right.
So anyhow, Soul's doing good. Ken's doing good. Marriage is like for shit.
Yeah.
But we look good on the outside. We just look.
Well, what matters?
And we take the kids to some of the events, and they were so spoiled that I remember in junior high school, one of them coming home angry because some other kid came to school with a T-shirt with an artist on it that they hadn't gotten yet, and explaining to them the facts of life.
Right. Wow.
Yeah. They just took it for granted. Like the oldest one reminds me of having taken him to see Diana Ross for his 18th birthday. And I didn't remember it. And he told me the whole thing about how we were there in Las Vegas, sitting at a little table right next to the stage. And Diana saw me, came over and said, hi. And I said, hi. And I went on to tell her it was my son and it was 18th birthday. So then she got up and she continued to sing happy birthday to Kenny.
Oh, wow.
And came and then gave him a kiss.
Oh, my goodness.
Just thrilled him, right?
Of course. Of course. Wow.
And to this day, I can remember the story he told me, but I have no memory of it really happening.
Yeah.
Okay. Because that's what it was. It was business. I was there and I was incorporating his birthday with being near Motown to probably talk more advertising or get a good story for Soul.
I gotcha. Okay. Now listen, I'm looking at the clock.
I know. See, I could talk to you for days.
Well, I'm going to cut you off there in a very successful newspaper and a ship marriage. Yes. and I want to go now, if it's okay with you. I really want to jump to, we talked about why you would want to write. What's kept you from writing?
I stopped everything for a minute and decided to be a writer. and I had a few pieces published.
Oh, I didn't know that about you.
Yeah, I actually, the 25th anniversary of the Watts riots, I wrote a piece from my perspective that got in the LA Times.
Wow.
And I remember sharing it with a writer for the Times. It was a friend of mine, and she was scared to death to read it because she was like figuring okay. And when she saw it, you could hear the amazement in her voice that, oh, okay, I'm going to submit this.
Mhm.
It ran for the 25th anniversary of the Watts riots. And I did, there was a publication called Sister to Sister. I did some interviews and wrote for them. I did a few things,
Okay, so you played with it.
but I had by then, divorced and had a lot of overhead at the home still. The kids are pretty much grown
Right.
or are grown, but I couldn't afford to be a writer.
Yeah, that's right. Ain't no money in it.
It was like they were doing you a favor,
Yeah.
giving you space to run what you wrote. And
Uh-huh.
it was hard work, okay?
Yeah.
And
Oh, here comes the leaf blowers. Just keep going.
I just completely, I think look for a job or start thinking about I had to get back to work in some way.
Gotcha.
And I like to share how when I talk about you keep getting up after Soul had folded and all of this happened in a 2-3 year span of time. My mother had cancer and it was colon cancer, and the marriage was falling apart and Soul newspaper was falling apart.
Wow.
So Mama died, the marriage ended, and Soul went out of business. And I was a friggin' wreck.
Of course.
Um,
Of course you were.
when I finally decided I had to pull it together, I signed up at a temp agency, and I would take temp assignments to see if I could even go into an office and put in a day.
Yeah.
And
Been
people
there.
offered me full-time jobs, and I'm like, no, can't, nope, not this. I couldn't stay here. And I would bounce around.
Yeah.
And then finally, a friend called and said, I'm going on vacation. I need someone to fill in for me. And she was the assistant to Alan Ladd Jr. at the Ladd Company, film company.
Oh,
So I said, okay. So for 2 weeks, I was Laddie's right hand.
mhm.
And from there, a man named Paul Maslansky there, who was doing the first Police Academy film, his assistant went out on maternity leave. And so I was filling in for her.
Oh, wow.
And then he offered me a position, even when she came back. He liked the work I did. And then at the same time, I'm working for him, and that's kind of what I'm doing. I get a call from Dick Griffey, who's the owner of Dick Griffey Productions, Solar Records, with artists like Shalimar and Lakeside and The Deal. And he invites me to dinner, and I think he wants to talk to me about somebody else. And he asked me to become his vice president of publicity.
Oh my gosh.
And I said, I don't know how to do publicity. And he said, I'm willing to pay you for 6 months to prove that you do.
Oh my goodness.
So I said, when? And it was like twice what the film business wanted to pay.
Oh, Regina.
And I said, when do I start?
Yeah. Wow.
The whole thought of maybe being in film was gone because it was the
Right.
dollars and
Of
cents.
course. Of
And I
course.
went there and I worked there for about 3 years, learning and doing publicity.
Right.
And I was blessed while there, Jesse Jackson was running for president,
Mhm.
and we were the West Coast manager. So I got to set up interviews and all
Wow.
kinds of stuff for Jesse. I even took him to New York and put him on Saturday Night Live. And I was scared to death. Myself and Daryl, who was in the office next to me, had thought this was a great idea. And we both were in New York realizing that if it didn't go well, we might
You
have
were
to walk
toast.
we might have to walk home from New York.
Yeah. Right.
And Jesse loved it.
Good.
It was the first time a presidential candidate had ever been on Saturday Night Live.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so we did that. And then at some point I was having such a good time. Dick called me and said, when will you be back? And I said, oh, blah, blah, we're doing. He said, has Jesse put you on his payroll? And I said, I'll be in the office Monday. So I always listened.
Yeah,
You didn't have to lecture me or tell me a lot.
right.
I listened.
Okay. Now, now I know also that post that you have a foundation. Is that the right word?
No, I worked for a nonprofit.
Yes, that
Child development.
fabulous
Another
nonprofit.
gift.
All right,
Yeah.
but wait, but I want to hear about writing. We gotta
Right.
get to it.
Okay, here we go. Writing.
Why?
I don't know when it started, but I started taking writing, not classes, writing groups.
Yeah.
Writing groups. And I would say that I learned early on, I know I was going to a writing group when I went to work for Dick while I was working there. And I remember writing about him and the office and all the stuff.
Yeah.
I literally wrote from my life to save my life.
Uh-huh.
Writing literally kept me from completely probably spinning out, burning up, killing myself or killing somebody else.
Yes.
Writing literally saved my life.
Wow.
It was a form of therapy.
Yes.
Because when you write, it's you can expose everything.
Yes.
And you don't have to share it with anybody unless you want to.
Yes.
And then it became intimate enough in my writing group that I was years with Nancy Bacall, and in 3 or 4 different time slots. So there'd be groups of like 5, 6, 8 people, little pods, that I'd read the stuff, and that's a healing.
Yes.
Writing about the traumas and then sharing them like that.
Yes.
And people that know you and ask you questions, and we all cared about each other because we were all there for similar purposes.
Yes.
And I think the original workshop that I saw somewhere was Writing to Heal.
Mm-hmm.
And it captured my attention. I showed up. It was myself and another man. And so it didn't keep on at this whatever mental health place it was. She brought us both into her groups at the house, at her home.
Right.
And writing just saved my life. I mean, it just did.
I didn't know you felt that way. Yeah.
Oh God, yes. It's kind of funny though. My writing is very scattered. One of my writers, Leonard Pitts, who worked for me, said recently, he said, well, in 1978, you interviewed Mick Jagger and your piece was just all over the place. It was just rambling. He said, and you came in and you gave it to me and you said, make it into something.
Oh, wow,
and
really?
And he did. And I'm trying to find the issue at the house and I haven't done it yet.
Wow.
Nothing changed. It always rambled pretty much. But if I had a deadline or a press release to write,
yeah,
I could pull in and do that.
Right.
But the personal writing still just kind of.
Okay. How much do you now have written of your story?
Over 1,000 rambling pages that a week ago, yesterday, I began working with Leonard as a coach. His volunteering to help me, which I'm so grateful for.
God bless him. Yeah.
500 pages a day is what, not 500 pages, 500 words a day, 2 pages.
Oh, okay. What did he lay down some requirements for you?
500 words a day. We talk every Friday morning at 9 a.m. for him.
How fabulous.
The 3,500 words I've written.
Yeah.
Where I'm going. And then he also insisted that I needed structure. And that took him back to the Mick Jagger story. Because I barely remember even after he reminded me of ever interviewing Mick. Okay. So I'm accountable. Yes. And I need accountability because I lived my whole life with deadlines.
Yes.
There's always a deadline.
Yep.
You don't break away from that. I mean, it's been good to be broken away from it and free.
Right.
But I need that.
Yes.
So I'm doing 500 words a day and I'm trying to do it every day. And I'm trying to find what my best fit is for time of day.
Yes.
And strange as it is, as I awakened at 3:30 this morning and this little voice said, get up and write. And I'd been struggling for 2 days, unable to write.
Mm,
and I wrote enough for 3 days from 3:30 to 5:30,
wow.
and went back to bed and slept before getting up for us to talk.
Do you have a set deadline for yourself for having a product, a book?
Well, here's his figuring. He said we should have it by, at this rate, we should have enough by October.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah.
That's
Now
really good.
understand, he's a very published writer. He has several books out, and he's a syndicated columnist, Leonard Pitts, for the Miami Herald.
Wow.
He started with me when he was 19 and a student at USC,
Yeah,
and he's still grateful and always gives me thanks. And he was presented a Pulitzer Prize, a Pulitzer Award in 2014. So
amazing. And he's boy, and he's volunteered. He is supporting you.
that
That is so wonderful. It goes to what you were saying, when you step up, the universe steps up.
now
I know that's true.
someone I know in another writing group I participate in, sort of,
Uh-huh.
suggested maybe I needed a coach and recommended her husband, but don't use him. But I think that's what you need.
Yeah.
No sooner than she said that, I say, from your lips to God's ears, Leonard heard her and he volunteered. Okay.
Wow.
And
Wow.
I'm sure this is him, it's payback,
Yeah,
and he wants to see me succeed.
yeah. It's a
And he
gift for
thinks
him
the
too.
story is interesting. And I know he doesn't have time for this,
Right. Right.
but he has so what that means is I have to show up.
You have to. Yep. You got to step up and be there. I'm so happy for you. I
Yeah,
really
I
am.
am too. I got tears now that
Yeah.
when I think about that.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, I have tears. Okay.
Yeah.
And it was all because he was given a courage award from some university, and I called him just to congratulate him.
Wow.
And he asked about the writing, and I told him, and then he said, send me some.
Wow.
And I said, well, 1,000 pages, right? And it was 14 different documents, because everything from 1980 to, a month
Yeah.
ago.
And did he say you're still rambling?
Yes. Oh, the beginning of his conversation with me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Was, it sounds like psychotherapy.
Yeah.
Truth.
Yeah.
It's repetitious. It's all over the place. It's lots of names.
Uh-huh.
And you don't name something unless you're going to flesh them out and they're in the story. You don't give their names.
Yeah.
And I need you to do structure, structure, structure.
All right. Wow. Well, I will be planning, let's see, if you're finished writing it in October, you ought to find a publisher quickly, especially with that kind of connected editor. And I expect I will see you next spring. You'll be
A year from now.
out. Yes.
Yeah,
I believe
that's what
that.
I'm hoping. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I'm hoping.
My dear, the time is gone.
I know.
I have no idea if people who are watching this will enjoy it as much as I have.
Or not.
Yeah.
But by now it's like, oh, well, then click off, right?
Yes, yes. And I certainly don't want this to be the end of our relationship. This,
No. Yeah, because I want to learn more about how you're doing this and what you're doing and how I can assist, because I think grown women, we need what's missing now. We don't have the family touch like we have, we need to support one another, and the whole world needs to acknowledge us, because
Yes.
we're the ones that buy the most of many things, and
Yes.
we are taken totally for granted.
Yep. And I really am of the, back in early 2000s, two friends and I wrote a couple of books about being over 50. I have to say, when we wrote them, I was already over 60, but hey, but that's what they were about. And we wrote them because we felt like there was so much we hadn't been told in our lives. Well, I'm discovering the same thing at 70s, 80s, and 90s. all we hear is gloom and doom and, oh my God, and we're all got physical stuff. Our bodies are sagging, dragging, bagging, whatever they're doing. But there's a whole other piece of it that isn't out there, which is what you're doing and what I hope I'm doing, and supporting each other.
Yeah, we have to.
Yeah. So,
And we got to figure out, hopefully some ways to get what you're doing as widely
yes,
spread
yes, we do.
as possible.
Yes. Regina Jones, I've loved talking to you.
Thank you very much. I
Thank
love
you.
it.
Thank you
All
for
right.
doing this. All
Have
right.
a great day. Let me know what happens with the first and what we need to do.
I sure will.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye.